Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It All Starts With a Wish podcast. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Mark.
We're about to go on a vacation.
We are.
Not to Disney, though.
No.
That's really unfortunate.
It is.
But in the opposite direction.
Go to Disney. Can't always go to Disney.
No, can't always go.
You got to go
Disney.
other places and see other things sometimes, too. So.
Yeah. Well, instead of going south, we're going to be the opposite way, and we are going north.
Well, as it should be in the summer, I feel.
Yeah. I'm definitely not going north in the winter.
No.
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 Mm-mm.
Definitely not.
Okay. Dad joke it is. You're flipping through.
Oh. I was just looking. You could have continued bantering for a moment while I continued looking. Or not.
Nope. I don't want to hear it.
Whatever. What happens when the smog lifts off of Los Angeles?
I don't know. What?
UCLA. But like UCLA, like the school.
I got it. I don't like that you don't have faith in me.
Well, I don't know. You're just staring at me blankly, like it does
because
not
that
lead
was
to much
terrible.
confidence that you understood the joke.
It wasn't funny.
But it's in a dad joke book, so it was funny.
It's not funny.
It is funny though.
It wasn't
See,
funny.
that's where you're wrong.
Maybe punny.
That's where you're wrong. It was very funny.
It wasn't.
You know who would have found that funny?
What?
A preschooler probably would have found that funny.
I don't know if they would have understood it.
No, they definitely would not have understood it. But I'm trying to get us on track for what we're going to talk about today. So one of our most popular episodes thus far has been Must Do with the Toddler. So we figured that we would continue with that trend and do what I think is the next step up. Now listen, folks, people's definitions of what is a toddler, what's an infant, what's a preschooler, they differ widely. Search it on Google. You know what? You're going to come up with 10 different things from 10 different people. Okay? The website I found considers infant from 0 to 1, a toddler from 1 to 3, and a preschooler from 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So,
I would have said 3 to 5.
Listen, if you don't like that definition, don't get mad at me. I didn't come up with it. It was on age groups by kid or whatever on Google. Okay? So
it was the first
get
one
mad
that came
at them.
up.
It was the first thing that came It was the first thing that came up, yes. Because I'm lazy, and I'm like most Americans, and I click on the first thing on Google, and I take that as the God's honest truth.
That's great.
Even though 9 times out of 10 it probably
Ages
isn't.
3 to 5. So if you consider a 3-year-old still in that toddler age gap from 1 to 3, there is some overlap. But we're going to focus on maybe less toddler, a little older.
Yes.
So thinking like 4 or 5 years old.
Now keep in mind, though, too, that this is going to be the first age group that your child is moving into where you're going to have to pay for them to visit the parks. Under 3, that infant age range, you are totally free.
Yeah.
That toddler and infant age range,
until
you're not
the age
paying
of 3
a
years
single
old.
thing. Once they hit that 3 years old mark, though, now you are paying the child price, which remember runs from ages 3 to 9. So I do think that, you know, the toddler age group to a certain extent, or even the infant age group, is just kind of gravy. You know, you're taking the kid. They may or may not do anything.
Enjoy something.
And that's okay. Because A, you're not paying anything for it.
This is true.
So it's okay that they're not really doing anything. I think this is the first age group, though, where you're going to feel the need for them to want to do things and have fun. Because you are paying for them. Not paying a full adult price, but you are paying for them to visit.
Yes.
And you may not, you have to come to the realization that this preschool age group, you are paying the same price as a 9-year-old, and obviously a 9-year-old potentially can get on a lot more rides than a 3 or a 4-year-old can get on, but you're paying the same price.
Right.
So I think in this age group, it's normal for parents to be like, we paid this money, you need to get something out of it.
Yeah.
But I think we have to start this with our typical words of caution.
Yeah. I think with this age group, because they're not probably going to still be able to get on all of the rides because of their height.
They're not going to be able to get on all the rides.
But I'm saying, like, most of them, they still can. I think a good thing with this age group is to focus less on the rides that they can't do and more of the experiences, shows, characters, extra magic things that you might pay more for. Just saying, some of them are, that we'll talk about, are an extra thing. But there's so many other things to do than attractions, than rides, and to really take advantage of those as well.
Sure. And I think to keep in mind where I was going to go with that too is keep in mind that, as we've said numerous times here, do not go into it expecting the world and then be disappointed, right? You still have to recognize that these are kids. They need breaks. They need to sleep. They're probably not going to be able to go from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. And you have to go into it expecting that and having reasonable expectations of your kids, so that way we're not having mental breakdowns halfway through the day every single day that you're there.
Yeah, I don't want that.
No.
So let's start in Magic Kingdom, because this is the poster child of the parks. I think,
quintessential Disney theme park.
Yes, this really is. I think this one has the most rides for kids of all heights. So this is one where you're probably going to be getting on a lot of them. A handful you're not going to be able to.
Sure.
So the first one that I think you should really do, Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. That's my first one. Though I think it can be kind of scary. But I think if your kid knows Winnie the Pooh and knows the stories and all that stuff and they're watching it already. Our son just started watching some of the shorts, and he says Pooh now. I think they're going to love it. Anybody can get on it. It bounces a little bit. It has a little bit of excitement. If your kid can kind of handle that kind of thing, it would be a good tester to see like how much we can really tolerate. But yeah, it's super cute and it's slow and it doesn't really have much thrill factor.
Sure. I think a lot of the rides in a broad swiping sense you're going to do in Fantasyland. I think Fantasyland is going to provide you with the most opportunities to ride rides, so Winnie the Pooh being one of those.
Yeah.
I think, of course,
go down the list.
Peter Pan is a fun one for kids. I think all the little all the little like dioramas that they have in that ride, and you're flying in a boat above everything, and there's some pretty cool colors and sights and sounds, and it's a short ride. So if you really don't like it, you're not on a ride for an extended period of time. So I think that those are always safe ones to do. And then, of course, you have things like Little Mermaid and the Teacups, and It's a Small World. All of those, I think, are still prime. Those are good also for toddlers, but I think that those are prime for a preschooler, too.
Yeah, I think preschoolers get a little more fun out of it than a toddler does. Yeah. I feel like they'll understand the storyline a little bit more.
The sights, the sound, the music, everything kind of pops in all of those. So I think that all of those holistically are good rides to do while you're in Fantasyland of the Magic Kingdom. Of course, too, I think anything like a Pirates is also a fun ride. Maybe a little scary for kids, but I think Pirates is a safe one. If we go to Tomorrowland,
the Tomorrowland Speedway, I think, is going to be a good one for, any boys or just adventurous kids.
Kids who like cars
drive
and
their
stuff
own
like
car.
That. Sure. Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin is also a fun one to do with kids this age. They may not be the best at like shooting the Z's or anything like that, but it's colorful and I think it really captures their attention along the way. So all of those kind of rides and more too, of course. I think the Jungle Cruise is probably okay. Maybe a little long and a little boring, though, so I am a little cautionary with that one. Be careful with the Haunted Mansion. Certainly they can handle the ride itself.
Yes.
It's an Omni-Mover ride, but just a word of caution.
This goes back to our toddler episode of, just because they can ride it doesn't necessarily mean they should.
Right. And they are a little bit more aware by preschool age, so some of the elements of this may actually scare them. So, whereas you're probably okay with a toddler because they probably don't fully comprehend what's happening, with a preschooler, you may just want to be cautious. Know your child. Don't just throw them on it because you may actually scare them going on that ride. There are elements of it that can be scary for small kids.
I would say the same thing with the Barnstormer.
Well, so good. Yeah, I was going to talk about roller coasters,
roller coasters
separately
in general.
in general.
Yeah.
But I think if you are going to introduce kids to roller coasters, the most sensible ride to do the first ride on is the Barnstormer.
Yeah. This is your very first, it's 35-inch height requirement. It's Mickey and Friends. It's still fun. If you sit in the front row, you're not going to get as much of that belly drop feeling. So, I mean, it does go kind of fast, but think of it as your very first introduction.
It's short. Roller coasters. It has small drops.
Yeah.
It is
nothing crazy.
No, and it's over quick. If they don't like it,
it is a really short coaster.
So, but of course, still know your kid, right? You can scar your kid permanently by taking them on a ride even as simple as this. But if you think that they've rode some of those other a little bit more exciting rides.
Yeah, even something like Astro Orbiter. If they do Astro Orbiter, they do Dumbo, and they do Magic Carpets, and they seem to like the speed, and they like that kind of feeling and going up and down and that kind of stuff, then this would be your next step up to kind of test if we're ready to go into that roller coaster category.
The next step for a preschooler age kid. It's a good introduction to roller coasters for them. After that, if you're going to attempt a roller coaster, I think that the next sensible step, this is a 38-inch requirement, and maybe we're not talking a 3-year-old here, folks, but if you're closer to that 5-year-old mark, I think if you go ride the Barnstormer, they like it, they had a good time, they enjoyed it, they feel comfortable on that ride, maybe you rode it once or twice now, and they're starting to really gain confidence with it, I think the next ride to go to is going to be the Mine Train.
Yeah.
Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is a 38-inch height requirement. Again, relatively short, and there are interludes between the more roller coaster-y parts and like when you're going through the mine itself.
Yeah,
and
you get a little break, so if it's not a constant thrill, so they're getting little bits and pieces of it, so they can kind of regroup in those moments and kind of get distracted by all the jewels in the mine and the songs, and you can kind of bring them back if they are getting upset for any reason.
Yep. And start in the front. Always. Rule of thumb with almost every roller coaster ride in Walt Disney World across the board. A few exceptions to this, which we can talk about in other episodes. We won't discuss them today. But almost always sitting in the front is going to be a slower, more tame experience. Because the back of the train is going to push you. Sometimes going over those first few hills, you go down them super slow, versus the back, it kind of whips you a little bit more because of momentum and gravity and all that stuff. So sit in the front. If you're riding this, it's worth waiting. You can always request of the cast members, hey, can we wait? You may have to wait a few cars in order to get this, but I think it's well worth the extra little bit of wait to get the front rows, maybe not the front row, but that second row in that front car. You're going to go slower, it's going to be a little bit more tame, and you want to slowly
even the first three little cars I feel like are the very front one would be preferable, but I feel like even the front like kind of three, I'm thinking of Thunder Mountain, I'm looking at you for the slow start, but yeah, I would definitely ease into it, even though they're okay with it.
After that, if we ride Mine Train and we're feeling good about it, maybe we try sitting further to the back too. So we've rode it a few times and we're starting to feel confident with that. The next one in Magic Kingdom that is a roller coaster, and this is probably where you're going to stop with a preschool age kid, is Thunder Mountain. And I'm only talking if your kid is really like 5, they're 40 inches. Tall. Well, so
which our kid is pretty
fall
tall.
Within a 40-inch height requirement in the preschooler
I was really
age.
tall. I could get on literally every upside down corkscrew roller coaster.
Even
and
still,
I was 6.
by the age of 5, the average kid is about 40 inches at 4 and 5 years old. So that is pretty much in the middle. So if your kid is tall enough and they are feeling pretty confident after riding Barnstormer and Mine Train, now I think you make that next step and you go to Thunder Mountain and sit in the front. Again, sit in the front. It's going to be a much slower, more tame experience. The back, that's where the roller coaster, the thrill seeker wants to sit, is in the back. Young kids just starting out with roller coasters, you sit in the front of that ride.
I wouldn't even touch Space Mountain.
No.
Honestly, unless you had a very, very adventurous kid who loves that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't even try it. I would be like, maybe next year.
Not with a preschooler.
Yeah, no.
With the next step up in the next episode, I think I will.
Yeah,
we'll make that
some of
step.
those other ones.
But even for for Space Mountain, we're also talking a 44-inch height requirement.
Yeah, it's up more.
So I don't think that most preschoolers are even going to meet that requirement. So I think that you're stopping the kind of the cap, the roof, the ceiling, whatever you want to say, is probably Thunder Mountain. If you could get a preschooler on Thunder Mountain and they really had a good time, that is as far as I would push it in Magic Kingdom.
Maybe next year.
Some shows that I think are well worth experiencing while in the Magic Kingdom, especially for preschoolers. Mickey's PhilharMagic is a really fun one. It's got some 3D elements. Just be cautious with that. Sometimes the 3D can kind of scare kids. So just know that there are things that are going to pop out at you. But it's a fun
It's all their favorite
show.
characters. So think of, their typical Mickey cartoon with 3D glasses on. So it shouldn't be too bad as far as scary because, there's a beginning, middle, and end. There's a problem. There's no villains or anything. It's just chaotic. So there's no bad guys or anything like that. But it's really fun, and I do hear a lot of kids in there giggling and laughing, and so that is a really good one. Another one, not to sleep on, is Enchanted Tales with Belle.
If it reopens.
But it will. It has to, right?
Who knows what they're going to do there.
Who knows? Well,
I don't know. Mickey's Magical Friendship Fair is a short show in front of Cinderella's Castle, and I think that that's a really cool one because, again, they're going to get to see a lot of their favorite characters, especially if your kid's into the Fab Five or into some of the princesses. It's going to get you that opportunity to just see some of those characters live on stage. Also, of course, have to always advocate for this. Happily Ever After.
Yes.
I think any age group is good to watch that fireworks show. Just be cautious, of course. Fireworks
Loud
are loud,
noises.
so know your child with that. But Happily Ever After has so many cool elements to it that I really think will capture a preschooler's attention. And also the parade during the day. The Festival of Fantasy Parade is also, I think, worthwhile, especially if your kid is into seeing the characters, especially if they want to see them at a distance.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like with this age group I feel like you have kids who are very adventurous with characters. If we segue into characters, since that's a lot of what we could do in Magic Kingdom too. Some are terrified. They just want to wave. Do not come near me. I was one of those kids. I didn't want to hug. I didn't want to high five. I just wanted to say hello, wave back at me, and that was it. So if we're not really meeting and greeting, or your kids don't really like big characters like that, up close and personal, the parades, the shows, those are all great ways for them to see those characters without having those interactions.
Right. And I'd never, at this age group, unless there is the only way that you can see this character is by waiting in line to meet them, I never advocate for that.
Yeah.
I am not a fan. I am not a person who you will ever convince to wait 45 minutes in the line to see a character. Unless, like on the last trip, we had to see Moana. The only way we could see Moana was standing in a 45-minute line. But I never advocate for that with kids. It's too long of a wait to have a very short interaction with the characters. Sure, you get to see them, you get to take a picture, you get them to sign your autographs, but such a short interaction for all that time that you waste standing in line, when you can pay a little extra and get a meal out of it and have a lot more positive interactions. Character dining is the way to go, folks. I will always advocate for character dining. Find the character. Of course, not every character you can meet in Disney at any given time, and you may not be able to find a character dining location that has the person that you really want to meet.
Yeah.
But with that being said, put that aside. If the characters that your kid wants to meet are at a place like Crystal Palace and they love Winnie the Pooh and the gang, or they really want to meet, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, and you can go to Topolino's Terrace, or you can go to any number of the Garden Grill, or all these places that do character dining. the interactions that I have seen and had with characters at character dining is far superior to anything that I've ever had standing in a line waiting.
Yeah.
And you're getting a good meal out of it. And sometimes you get to see the characters twice, maybe even 3 times the characters will come around.
Yeah,
so your kids getting to interact with these characters multiple times for much longer periods of time. And guess what, Mom and Dad? You get a meal out of it too.
And you're sitting. And you're
sitting.
inside.
Yep.
So, I'm hearing that a must-do with a preschooler is character dining.
Yes.
Regardless of park, regardless of anything, do a character dining meal, even if it's just one.
You can find them at the parks, at the hotels, multiple experiences everywhere. Look up the character dining options. We've done an episode on this. You can go back and listen to the character dining episode.
Who's where and all that jazz.
Yep. And so definitely with a preschooler, must do. Do not stand in a line and wait to see a character.
Not the same character that is at a breakfast.
Yes.
That's
not
silly.
worth it. It's just not worth it.
It's not. Another thing I think a must do with a preschooler is, I know this, I don't know if you'll agree, but I think it's a must do, is Bippity Boppity Boutique.
Sure.
I think it is. If you have a child who's into princesses, look no further to their magical, glamorous makeover that they're going to get. They have so many different princesses to choose from. Tiana, Elsa, Cinderella, Belle, you name it, they probably have it. They get their hair and makeup done very tastefully, nothing like crazy. Up in a bun, they get a little tiara, they get pixie dust and sparkles on them, and they get to keep the costume and be a princess for the rest of the day. So that is something that I have just seen kids beaming ear to ear, looking at themselves in the mirror.
My nieces did this when they were little, and they all loved it. I think it's a great experience for kids who especially want to be a princess.
And then if you really want to combine the character dining and the Bippity Boppity, is you go to a princess dinner.
Yeah.
Or
certainly.
Right after.
I mean,
so you get
I'm not a huge fan of Cinderella's royal table, but it just kind of, I feel like it's something that you have to do.
If you do Bippity Boppity.
Yeah. If you get dolled up like a princess, you have to eat inside of Cinderella's castle. You have to go in the castle. You have to eat inside
It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's right there. Bippity Boppity is right there in the castle and just outside parts of it. So you got to do it while you're there. 100%. Right.
I want to move to Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
Because I think another really great thing is the Disney Junior play show. All of their favorite shows are on there. It's updated all the time with new shows. So the shows that we used to see when, our nieces and nephews were little is not the same show. Like when I went with my family when my sister was little, it was still Bear in the Big Blue House and Handy Manny and all of that kind of stuff. Guess what? They're not there anymore. Those aren't on there. So it's always evolving. And it's great. They get up and move. It's air conditioned. They can get up and dance. Again, see those characters from afar. These aren't characters that you're really going to see out much. Like these are the ones that you're really only going to see here in Hollywood Studios and in this show. So definitely a really fun one.
Yep.
And it's not too long.
And it's a dance party now. It's pretty short. I think it's 15 minutes or so.
You just get to
so
see your characters, you dance. And
I do think that if you have a kid who really likes cars, we talked about this in the toddler one. Our son really kind of was overwhelmed and loved this, I think, in many ways.
He was smiling and he was just like, wow, this
overwhelmed
is crazy.
in the best way.
Yeah.
But the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy is a great show, I think, for that age group too. It's just fun. It's interactive. You get to see a full-scale Lightning McQueen from a distance. It's just a cool show.
It's really cool. There is some smoke and some flashing lights and, some stuff like that. But it was really, even as an adult, I was like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So it will definitely keep their attention.
Next must-do for a preschooler is certainly Tower of Terror. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, my gosh.
Definitely not Tower of Terror. Not
do not do that.
But I do think that Toy Story Land is a cool place to go with kids. Alien Swirling Saucer is a potential option. Keep in mind that does whip you a little bit.
It's like, I feel like it's comparable to like a scrambler ride. So you're not really spinning, but you are spinning, but you're being tossed side to side. So you get that feeling of being whipped, like you do in a scrambler. So it can be a little intense.
It can be. It is a 32-inch requirement, though, so this is like the perfect height for preschool age kids. It can be a little intense, but not too bad, so I think that is a solid option. If you have done the Magic Kingdom loop of roller coasters already and your kid's feeling pretty good with all of that,
I think they can do this one.
Slinky Dog is definitely, I would say, the next roller coaster on that list that I would direct you to. Slinky Dog Dash is a 38-inch height requirement, so it's actually a lower height requirement than Thunder Mountain. So I feel even if your kid didn't get on Thunder Mountain, this one I think is doable for a preschool-aged kid.
It's a little bit bigger of a drop in the launch.
Yeah, there's parts of it that are kind of a little intense. But I do think that this is less intense than Thunder Mountain can be. So I would point you even to this ride before you ride Thunder Mountain. But I do think that this is well within, if you've done Barnstormer, if you've done Mine Train, and you're feeling confident with those, and your child is feeling confident with those, Slinky Dog Dash is definitely the next step up to go to.
Another great one, not in Toy Story, well, we can stay in Toy Story Land if you want to, but all of those are
I mean, Midway Mania is fine too.
Toy Story Land in general is a good
I don't know how well a preschooler is going to do with Toy Story Midway Mania and
they're just gonna
the
pull
interactive,
the thing and
but they're going to pull it and they're going to have a good time, so sure, we'll toss that one on the list too.
Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Yes, this is definitely a fun one.
Great one. Our son loved this. Toddler. Not even. So still in that infant, almost toddler range. He was not even one. Lots of sounds. Doesn't go too fast. Lots of stuff going on. Not scary. It is a little dark, but it's not Haunted Mansion dark.
Right.
It's a dark ride, but there are still bright colors. Lots of music and noises and that kind of stuff. So
and if you've ever interacted with a preschooler before, this ride is almost like a preschooler telling you a story.
That's what it was based off of.
Like it
wasn't
truly,
it? Like
I don't know if that is.
They wanted to keep like imagination going. Like it just
I heard someone else describe it that way. I forget who it was. I think it might have been a vlogger like Tim Tracker or something like that. But I think he's spot on. Like if you ever interacted with a preschooler, it's like a preschooler trying to tell you a story.
We were on a picnic and then it ran away and then we were in a waterfall and then we went down the waterfall and we were underwater. But then we got up and we were in the city and you're just like, what?
And then we were in a dance studio with Daisy.
You were like, wow, that sounds crazy.
All over the place. But I think because it is all over the place like that, it's very much like a preschooler, perfect preschooler's ride. Yeah.
I do have to say that even in Magic Kingdom, we didn't mention this, but there's a lot of interactive things in all of the parks that they can do. Magic Kingdom, they have things with their Magic Band where they can go and they can hunt and look for different things. Moving into Hollywood Studios, they have Galaxy's Edge where they can also scan things and look for different codes and that kind of stuff. So if you have kids that are into that kind of stuff too, definitely fills in the time when you're walking around doing stuff. Those are great things. But Star Wars,
I think it's a little over a preschooler's head. Most things there are
I think we can definitely meet the characters at Launch Bay if we do have little Star Wars fans.
Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, I think that you can do it. It's 38-inch height requirement, but I don't know that preschoolers really understanding what's happening there. Or really like, maybe a 5-year-old can. Yeah. But it depends. Are your kids into Star Wars yet? Have they really been exposed to that? 5 feels a little young for that, but I'm sure that there are some 5-year-olds who like Star Wars and are starting to get into it
like
too.
The Lego Star Wars things.
Know your
like
kid,
that.
But if they've never been introduced to Star Wars, I don't know that there's a lot in this land that's going to be
you can just do the Launch Bay if they know the characters and not necessarily do the rides, and they can meet some of the characters that way if they're into it.
Sure.
Shows, though.
This park is tough.
This park is tough.
For preschoolers and toddlers.
Shows, though. Frozen sing-along.
Shows, though.
I'm telling you. It's Hollywood,
I'm just saying, it's tough.
It is tough
for kids with rides.
But you have a lot of shows.
Yes.
Don't roll your eyes at me.
Please say shows one more time.
Shows. Frozen Ever After sing-along.
Yep.
We have the dance party. You have Fantasmic. You have Beauty and the Beast. You have Indiana Jones. What am I missing?
Indiana Jones may be a little above
It might be
a
too old.
preschooler,
Yeah.
so you may be pushing it there. But the other
At
ones,
least
yes.
those 4.
Muppets Vision can be
Muppets
fun
Vision.
with preschooler too. So there are show options here that are fitting for a preschooler.
I do have to warn you, though, if you go into Fantasmic, there are villains. You might have someone scared. My sister was one of them. She
Go back
was
and
about
listen
that
to
preschool.
another-
That was about that preschool age.
Go back and listen to former episodes. We've talked about this at length, this experience that her sister had.
You can have varying results
Yes. Well, you can with anything.
with villains.
Anything. You can have
I
varying
know,
results. Depending
but
on
that
the kid.
one, I feel like I don't think I've ever had someone be crying and happily ever after watching the fireworks show.
Maybe.
Maybe because of loud noises,
Yeah.
but she specifically was upset because of the villains.
Right.
So
There's a few good ones. Regardless, there are some good shows. Do not sleep on the shows if you're visiting Hollywood Studios with a preschool age kid. Also, don't sleep on some of the restaurant options. There are some really fun restaurants here that I think a preschooler may get a kick out of. Things like Sci-Fi Dine-In, where you sit in a car.
Woody's Roundup Rodeo.
Woody's Roundup Rodeo is a really fun one for a preschooler, and that's a new one there certainly too, so that's a good option. Prime Time can also, I think, kind of be fun with the old-fashioned TVs and stuff like that. So do not sleep on the restaurants at Hollywood Studios. Hollywood and Vine usually has great character dining there, whether it's more Disney Junior
stuff,
characters or more of your Mickey,
the classic,
Goofy,
yeah.
Minnie, and them as well. They do both there, so check that out as well too, because you can see some Disney Junior characters and some of your more traditional characters, depending on what dining you're doing there.
All right, do you want to go to Epcot or
Sure, we can go
Animal
to Epcot.
Kingdom?
No, Epcot's good.
Epcot's
we'll go,
a good one.
We'll hop on
Epcot,
the boat and we'll ride on over to Epcot.
I feel like people sleep on Epcot with kids. I feel like they're like, there's nothing for kids in Epcot.
It's false.
Wrong. Absolutely wrong. So, we have a few different things here. One, even just around the countries, they have Kid Cot. It's really cool if you're into someone who likes to, collect the stickers and go to each of the lands and write their name. And it's a really cool cultural experience too, talking to people, learning their name in a different language and writing it. There's that. You have Remy's.
You do have Remy's
Ratatouille Adventure. Great. Our son went on it. He loved it. I have videos of him smiling at the screen. I don't think he knew what was going on, but he liked it. It is 3D, so be careful with motion sickness, I think. That's where I think it can get a little crazy. But really great ride. I think Remy's is probably my top one for a preschooler in Epcot.
Yeah, it's a really good option.
What about you?
Frozen Ever After is another good ride. 2 small drops. You're going to kind of go backwards, too, on this boat ride, and you're going to have a small drop, but it's small. So I think for a preschooler, it's really manageable. We're not talking a 60-foot plunge like on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, formerly Splash Mountain. They're small drops, they're manageable, and they're just fun rides, I think, for a kid who's a preschool age. A lot of cool colors, seeing your Elsas, your Annas, your Svens of the world. Listen, lady. Also, Nemo. The Nemo ride, and more importantly, the Living Seas Pavilion.
Just that whole...
The aquarium, you could spend, and we did, with a toddler, and with a preschooler, almost certainly you could spend hours in there just looking at all the different fish.
They have another book collection thing
Turtle
where
Talk
you have
with
to...
Crush is so cool in there. The kids get to
You could
interact
literally
with
spend a whole
Crush.
day in there.
So great opportunity in that building, I think, for preschoolers to just explore, to learn, and
the land, too.
to hang out with the fish.
Gotta go on Living with the Land. You do. My kid's gonna go on it.
I'm sorry, I don't think I can advocate for that for the average preschooler. I think that's a little too boring for them.
It probably is boring.
But soaring is, I think, within the realm of reasonability for a preschooler as well. And I think soaring's a really cool ride. What did I say?
What is soaring?
Did I say soaring?
There's no G.
I meant soaring. Sorry.
Yeah,
Soarin',
it could be.
Soaring is a 40-inch height requirement.
Yeah.
So for your older preschooler, 4 and 5 years old, This is just such a cool ride, and I don't think I've ever heard or seen a kid as small as they were on this ride like lose it and be upset. Like, I think they're always just amazed and really enjoy it. So I do advocate that in the Land Pavilion, hop on Soarin' and check it out. Also, fun, Figment, Journey into Imagination with Figment. I may not personally like that ride.
Me either.
And I know you
tomatoes
don't.
Thrown at us.
Yes, but there are people who really love this.
I know.
And I think for a kid, the whole imagination thing and Figment himself's just a really cool character. And like when we're in Figment's house and it's upside down and everything's kind of topsy-turvy, I think that this one is just kind of a cool one for that preschool age kid.
Inside a preschooler's brain.
Be careful at the end, though, because there is a little explosion that happens that may scare your kids. Just be ready for that towards the end of the ride. But overall, I think Figment is well worth it while you are in Epcot.
I would say opposite of a must-do to stay away from would probably be Spaceship Earth. I think it's kind of boring.
Spaceship Earth can be slow and boring for someone who's a preschooler. Some preschoolers may start to appreciate it, but you may be at a tough age to do that. Moana's water adventure, though, is very, very cool, and preschoolers would love it, especially if they like water, if they're into Moana. It's a really
honestly, just
cool...
the interaction parts, whether you like Moana or not, it's just like controlling the water and walking through and doing all of that stuff. It's just really, really cool.
It is. Very interactive.
You could spend a good amount of time in there.
And journeying back to the World Showcase, I will put in a plug here for the Grand Fiesta Tour with the Three Amigos. I think that that's just a cool little boat ride with a lot of cool colors and elements in it, and you get to hang out with Donald Duck. So I think that one, search for Donald Duck. Donald is missing, so you get to search for Donald Duck.
Where is he?
On that ride. So I would say that is another cool element in the World Showcase area that is well worth taking a preschooler on. I would avoid most of the shows, though, in World Showcase. But also, again, here, don't sleep on some of the restaurants in Epcot too. There are some really cool ones that I think a preschooler would really like. Things like Space 220. Some of the restaurants in the World Showcase. Know your kid and know what they like to eat, of course.
Yeah.
But there are some really kind of neat restaurants that bring elements of the culture of those places and even some entertainment into it. So places like the Beer Garden in Germany, where there are live performances and they're playing all the little bells and their horns and all that stuff is pretty cool. And Teppan Edu, where you're sitting around hibachi and getting kind of that show to it too as well. So don't sleep on some of those restaurants, because they can be really cool ways to introduce your kids to some of the cultural elements of each one of those different places.
Yeah. I think that's it for Epcot. Because that's it. All right, let's head over to Animal Kingdom, the giant zoo.
What a wild time.
This is a great park, I think, for preschoolers, especially if they love animals and they love going to the zoo. There's a lot of stuff to do that's not really
Wilderness
even
Explorers.
attraction related. Yeah.
Wilderness Explorer. Go and get your Wilderness Explorer badges. You'll see the stations all across the park. I think there's something like 14 of the stations across the park. You get a little sticker at each one of them. You learn something about the cultures or the animals or, elements of the park as you go along. Well worth it. Preschoolers, right in their wheelhouse to do
right in there.
That Wilderness Explorer badge thing.
Yeah, I think a must-do was, kind of obvious, but the Kilimanjaro safaris. Gotta go see all the animals out there.
All of the animal attractions, I think, are worth it. You want to do both the Maharaja Jungle Trek in Asia and do the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail in Africa. Go check out all those animals. Spend some time learning about some of those animals. There's always something cool to see or do on those. So in addition to, of course, I think the premier ride in Animal Kingdom being Kilimanjaro Safaris, definitely check out and do not sleep on some of those other animal experiences that are all around the park while you're there.
Yep. I think another one is Navi River Journey for a preschooler. Even if they don't know what Avatar is or anything, the colors and the animals, and it's just
the music
amazing.
Is very alluring,
yeah.
I think.
It's really, really cool. It is dark in there, but it's just because it's set at night, so everything is glowing. So that is a really good one. Not Flight of Passage. Not that one. Walk right past. Walk past it. That land at night, if you are going in the winter time, that land at night is amazing at night. And I think preschoolers would love to just walk around and look at all of the cool flowers and sounds and look at all of the glowing iridescent plants.
And at least at the time of recording, I think that at this point, Dino Land USA is still open. That may not be true depending on when you listen to us. It may have closed. That seems pretty inevitable at this point. But Dino Land USA can be a fun area for kids to play. They have a lot of those carnival-like games that kids can play that I think are great for preschoolers, as well as Triceratops Spin is a fun one, Dumbo-esque ride. You just spin around in a circle on a dinosaur. So do not sleep as long as Dino Land is still open. Do not sleep on Dino Land either. Because I do think that there's some neat elements there for kids. Shows that I think are must-dos with a preschooler, almost certainly the Lion King show, Festival of the Lion King in Africa. This show is just amazing, and I think any age is a good age to do the Festival of the Lion King show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Finding Nemo, the musical, is also a solid experience for kids. I think all the puppets and all the colors in that ride, and the songs, the music, everything to it, it's well worth it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Animal Kingdom is one of those, I feel like Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios are one of those less rides, maybe, but more experiences in shows. So it's a little less on the preschooler rides than Magic Kingdom or even Epcot. But there are definitely experiences that will entertain and make a preschooler's trip.
Yeah, you definitely want to... Same thing with a toddler. You want to focus mostly on Magic Kingdom, though, I would say. Like, that's where you're going to want to spend multiple days in the bulk of your time, because there just is the most to do at that park.
Yeah.
It's not to diminish any of the other parks, but maybe you're only spending a half day at Hollywood Studios. Maybe you're spending, a few days here and there at Epcot and at Animal Kingdom. But you're probably going to want to reserve most of your time for the Magic Kingdom, because that is just where there is the most to do with this age group.
Yeah, I would say the half days are really good, and I would probably include Magic Kingdom on most of those half days. So you get it both at night and during the day, or you do it all day and you just take a break and you go back both at night and, drop it in the morning.
And I think that's another, and this will be the last thing that I say, that's an important must-do with a preschooler. Take a break. I know this is a general theme across all of the episodes, but you are still on vacation. I know you get sick of me saying this, but I truly mean it. You're still on vacation. A preschooler still needs breaks. A preschooler still needs to eat snacks. A preschooler still needs to take a nap oftentimes. A preschooler still needs to go for a little swim and take a break from being in a park all day. So please, please, please do yourself a favor and take a break.
Yep, please take a break. You're going to need a break too. You're going to lose your mind eventually doing it all day, every day. And you don't want tantrums. Just try to avoid them. They're probably going to happen, but don't make it worse. Don't
avoid the tantrum
against yourself,
Avoid the tantrum. Take a break.
Yeah.
Well, folks, this has been a little longer this episode, but there was a lot to cover, and last week's was a little bit shorter, so we made up for it this week. But as always, if you have any questions or comments for us, would like to reach out to us directly, feel free to do so. You can always send us an email at startswithawish.podcast@gmail.com. And if you have a preschooler-aged kid that you're looking to plan a Disney vacation with, always can reach out to Rachel for your Disney vacation planning needs at rmello@mickeystravels.com. Follow us on our social media accounts, all that jazz. And remember, folks, it all starts with a wish. We'll see you real soon.
Bye.